Kum Lenen, Ablak Gemara, we're at a Shabbos, of Tesam al Chagigah. So the Mishnah continues. Mi shalei chag b'yom tov harishon chag. If somebody did not celebrate the first day, did not bring his Chagigah the first day Yom Tov, Chagig as kol haregel, you have the time to bring it the rest of Yom Tov. And the Chiddush of Sukkot says even the Yom Tov achar Chag, you also bring a Shmini Atzeres, even though we said before Shmini Atzeres says separate Yom Tov Yom. What happens over haregel lechag? He went past Shmini Atzeres, he still didn't bring a korban. Then you're no longer responsible. As an emmer, and here we apply the pasuk where it says "Mu'uvis." It's krum la yuchel sakin. You cannot straighten it out. It's crooked. You cannot straighten it out. V'chesen, and this hole la yuchel limanos. You can't fill. So that's fafal. You lost it. Rav Shimon says, I agree with that, but I'll take it further. Ezehu mu'uvis she'enu yuchel lehiskain. What does it mean? That there's something crooked you cannot straighten out. If somebody had relations with like incest or someone that's forbidden to him or adultery, and then they give birth to a mamzer, you can do tshuva from today till tomorrow, but the mamzer is still around. And some people want to say that you still do tshuva, you just have to work harder. Or if you read the stories that people did tshuva and the child, the mamzer had to pass away or something for them to have a full tshuva, because even though they did tshuva, as far as the gavras they did tshuva, but the chefts of the Aveda, the product of the Aveda, is still in existence. Im Taima, if you're going to say that maybe he's talking about somebody who stole, no, Yochel Lachazid, he can always return the money. The Yisak can fix it up. Rav Shimon ben Yochai goes further. He says, "Ein koydin mu'ubis." When it says that someone that's crooked cannot be straightened out, somebody originally started straight out, then he's avis, and then he went off the derech. And once Ashana or Peter, somebody was correct, was the right way, and then he went to the derech, is much harder. If a Talmud Chacham who was in the right path, and then he decided to become a renegade or become an apostate or whatever, he became an apokeros, very difficult to bring him back. Okay, up to the Gemara. Second one, I mean, I know there's any makeup clause. Maybe you have to bring it the first day Yom Tov for Chagigah, and if you can't, fafal. How do you know? It says that it says that regarding Shvishal Pesach, the Torah says 6 days you should matzahs on the 7th day. Atzeres Hashem lekecha. It's atzeres. Don't do any work. And we find the same expression. Atzeres b'shmini shachag shmini atzeres is also called atzeres. It says there atzeres. Don't do any work. Is mal halal tashlumin, just like over there by Pesach. Definitely, you can bring it on the 7th day. Avkal tashlumin. Over here too, because the 7th day Pesach is part of Pesach, so therefore you can still make it up. So Shmini Atzeres, even though it's a separate Yom Tov, since it's Atzeres, you can bring it. You can make up then as well. Do catch up. Says the Gemara, in order for Gzeir Shabbat to be rock solid, you need it to be extra. You need it to be mufna. So we say, so you need mufnim mishnetz dodim ideal, so you can't ask any questions. Mufnim mitzad echad, you can ask a few questions, or if it's not extra at all, then if the slightest question, you can undermine the whole Shabbat. Says the Gemara, mufnim, you'll have to say that it's extra. Why? If it wouldn't be extra, you can undermine the entire Shabbat. I would say Shvila Pesach. You know why Shvila Pesach works? You know why Shekain Ein Cholok or so far. It's no different than the day before. It's part of Pesach. It is different than the day before. It's a different Yom Tov altogether. So who said that it can work? So what's extra here? Says Gemara, yes. You're right. It is extra. Merdi Maya Tzedes. The word Tzedes mean. What does the word Tzedes mean? To restrain. Restrain from what? Don't do work. But the next word it says, then it says Lesasek Malacha, don't do any work. And the same, that's by Pesach, the same Mishmei Atzedes. Atzedesi, Kom Malacha Lesasu. Again, both of them, Atzedes is extra because it says don't do any work. I said because I'm teach you lovely. It's extra. Teaches the Shabbat, then you can make up Shmini Atzedes. Traces of the opinion that even though on Sukkot and on Pesach you make up the whole time, but Shavuos, Traces holds you cannot make up. You only have 1 day Yom Tov, even that if you miss the first day Yom Tov, you cannot make it up to the next 7 days. Because it's not, what are you making up? It's not really Yom Tov. And even though by David HaMelech, we're going to learn later on in the second paragraph that by David HaMelech, passed away on the first day Yom Tov and the Shabbos, and everyone was an einin, so they bring a carbon until the following day. If they were an einin, they were potter. How can they make up the next day? According to Taisa, there's no makeup on Yom Tov. So the first answer that the first in the morning they were already chayiv the carbon. Don't know passed away during the day, so therefore they were at the beginning of the day they were chayiv. That causes them to bring the rest of the time. We'll see later. Talking about further. Sorry. Tana, we have another brayso that brings you somewhere else. Michael in the following place. What I just said about shoes will come back to me. I'll explain you a bit more what I meant. But Tana brings it from here. Tana, you learn it says in the pasuk, you should celebrate that single day. It's a single. Shiva, then it says 7 days. First of all, I thought you have 7 days to bring the carbon. You have to bring it the first day. So why in the world does it say you should celebrate 7 days, only 1 day? But if you didn't, you're supposed to bring it the first day. If you didn't, you have 7 days to make up. How do you know if you didn't bring it the first day? You can continue further and go into Shmini Atzeres. There's another pasuk. It's in that pasuk. It says it says 7 days, and then it says it sounds like this entire 7th month you can celebrate it. Therefore, it goes further, expands to Shmini Atzeres. Well, maybe you can bring it the entire month. Only on that day, you cannot celebrate beyond that. Okay, you cannot say, and that's how you know it's limited to Shmini Atzeres, because it says b'chodesh hashvi goes a bit further, expands it out further. But on the other hand, because it says the chagoyis has to be tied into the Yom Tov, so the most that we expand it through Shmini Atzeres. So what exactly does it mean tashlumin? Rabbi Yechon says tashlumin rishon. That means the first day you have to bring the carbon. If you don't bring the first carbon, the second, third, fourth day, they are just like makeup for the first day. And Rabbi Yechon says no, tashlumin zelazah. Each day, if you don't do the first day, you have a new chiyuv the second day. Then it's not a makeup of the first day. The chiyuv moves over. It's a new chiyuv of the second day. And it's according to this view that Taisa says that Shavuos, it doesn't work. Because Shavuos, you only have 1 day Yom Tov. There's no way to say that after Shavuos, every day there's a new chiyuv. It's not Yom Tov. If you learn, like Rabbi Yechon, that the 7 days are catch up or make up of the first day, even Shavuos, so you have 1 day Shavuos, that's the chiyuv. If it didn't, the Torah gives you 6 more days to make up for the first day. But if you learn that it's every day is a new chiyuv, like Rabbi Yechon learned, then on Shavuos, it's hard to imagine that's the case because each day it's beyond, it's no longer Yom Tov. Why would you be chayiv? Now, my benai, what's the difference if you learn to catch up for the first day or each day there's a new chiyuv? Omer Abzei, the difference would be what happens the first day you're exempt. For example, the first day Sukkot you were crippled, but then afterwards you're healed. If it's a makeup for the first day, well, the first day you're exempt, so then you're exempt the rest of the Yom Tov. But if it's not a makeup of the first day, the chiyuv of the first day, but if you couldn't do it, then the next day is a new chiyuv. It doesn't matter that yesterday I couldn't do it. Today I can, if I'm chayiv because of today. It's make up the first day, keeping the since it's not suitable the first day, you're exonerated, then you exempt the rest. And each day is a new Yom Tov. Even though you're not suitable for the first, is suitable for the second. Taisus has a very interesting criteria. It's like a Chaim Briskus thing. Taisus has a question over here. What happens all the way around? What happens? So how do you understand that it's makeup? Let's follow Rabbi Yechon. It's a makeup for the first day. So there's really 2 ways of understanding. Let's say Sunday was the first day Yom Tov. It can't be Sunday, but let's say Monday was the first day Yom Tov, and you for whatever reason you didn't bring it. So now the Tuesday is a catch up from Monday. So what's pshat? Is Tuesday, but you're now bringing the carbon that you should have brought on Monday. So you're making that up, or the pshat is that Tuesday now became Monday. That Monday shifted over to Tuesday, and even though it's Tuesday on the calendar, halachically you said Monday, and that's what you're doing now. What's the difference? What happens all the way around? What happens? You were healthy on Monday, but you didn't bring the carbon for whatever reason, and on Tuesday you were crippled. So you bring a carbon Tuesday now for Monday. If you learn that Tuesday is Tuesday, and Tuesday you bring in the carbon that should have been done on Monday, but Tuesday you're potter, you can't bring it. But if you learn that Monday now moves into Tuesday, So then you bring the carbon as a Monday carbon, even though as far as Tuesday is concerned, you should be exempt because you're now a cripple. But since it's not, halachically, it's not Tuesday, halachically, it's Monday that's moved over to Tuesday, you have to still bring the carbon. Interesting Hakira. Gemara continues further. We're not happy with what you just said. Rabbi Yechon said it's only a catch-up. Says Gemara, did Rabbi Yechon really say that? And there's a question. You tell me there was a catch-up, and therefore, if you're exempt the first day, you exempt the rest. Chagigah once said, what happens? Nitma. Yeah, we're talking about here a nazir. A nazir, let's say you has 30 days of the naziris, let the hair grow. Came tamei in middle, counted 2 weeks, suddenly became tamei. So he has to say, I hate this. He has to wait 7 days to become clean. Then he brings karbonos. He was a mikveh, brings karbonos on the 8th day, and then he starts all over again. What happens? Okay, he completed a 7-day hiatus, and he became tired. He went to the mikveh and the sun, and then the 8th day, suddenly he became tamei again. So he has to now wait another 7 days. Does he bring 2 sets of karbonos, or he brings 1 carbon at the end of the second set of 7 days to cover both sets of 7 days? So if it happened on the 8th day, you already chayiv a carbon for the first set. So now you became tamei again. It's a whole new area, a whole new tumah. And the end of the next 7 days, you bring 2 sets of karbonos, 1 for the first 7 days, 7 for the second 7 days. But what about you became tamei at night? At night, it's already the night of the 8th day, but you couldn't have brought the carbon yet, because at night you don't bring karbonos. So the question is, so does the night nevertheless complete the first 7-day period, and now it's a whole new section? Or do we say, since you couldn't bring a carbon at night, it's as if the 7 days hasn't yet expired, and if you became tamei at night, it's a continuation, and you wait another 7 days, and you bring 1 carbon for the lot. So it comes along. Chagigah says, if you became tamei on the 8th day, then maybe you bring another set of karbonos. But Belaila, if you became tamei at the night of the 8th, since you couldn't have brought a carbon for the first set hasn't yet been over, hasn't expired, ain't a maybe. So then you count another 7 days, but you don't bring another set of karbonos. However, Rabbi Yechon says, Av Belaila nami maybe. Rabbi Yechon said that even if it happened at night, you still bring another set of karbonos. So even though you couldn't have brought a carbon at night, it's still considered like another thing, and you bring a whole other set of karbonos. So what do we see from here? Even though you couldn't have brought a carbon at night, so even though you're not able to bring a carbon at night, nevertheless, we say that you can that you have to make it up. It's a whole new set. So how come Rabbi Yechon says that the first day Yom Tov you couldn't bring a carbon, the next days you're exempt? Why? It doesn't matter that you couldn't bring a carbon today. Tomorrow you can bring. You have to bring a carbon tomorrow. So the Gemara says, "Shiny tumah. Tumah is different. Any carbon that's pushed away because that you were tamei is not considered as if you were totally exempt. Not the same thing as somebody's crippled on Yom Tov when you're totally exempt. You're totally exempt. You don't have to make it up. Over here, it's not totally. Why? Because there are instances that even though you're tamei, still you have to bring a carbon. For example, you were tamei in the first Pesach, you bring a carbon the second Pesach, which means, and you make up the tumah. But you were exempt the first Pesach because we see that tumah is not a total exemption. That means you still have the obligation. Just practically you can't do it. It's not considered total exemption. Comes Pesach Sheni, you have to make it up. So don't ask me a question from tumah to somebody who's crippled where there's a total exemption. Somebody's crippled is exempt from going the regular, as we learned. You have to be able to make your trek to your shalayim. So you want me even shiny tumah is different. The yes of tashlum Pesach Sheni. There's a makeup in Pesach Sheni tumah which proves that tumah, when you're tamei, you can't bring a carbon. It's not a total exemption. The chiv is still there. It's still riding there. Just you can't physically, practically do it, but you still chayiv. Says the Gemara, Master where Papa says, Hanicha. Now remember, we had in our a big argument if Pesach Sheni is a catch-up, a makeup, or Pesach Sheni is a new Yom Tov. We had a machlekes there of Nosson, and so therefore we have a Rebbe. So Hanicha Lemanda Amar. This would make sense what you're saying now. Of course, you want to say that Pesach Sheni Tashlum Rishonu. The Pesach Sheni is to make up Pesach Rishon. Even though Pesach Rishon you were exempt because you were tamei, that proves that tumah is not a full exemption. I understand, and therefore you can make it up, but a cripple is a full exemption. But the one who says that the Pesach Sheni, you're liable, you're obligated, not because you're making up the first one. No, it's a total exemption of the first one, where the Torah gave a new obligation. If you didn't bring Pesach in the first Pesach, then you have a new chiyuv on Pesach Sheni, not to make up Pesach Rishon, but it's a new chiyuv on Pesach Sheni. What do you say then? So the first Pesach he totally exempt. Yeah, and yet he says that at night. So Tumah is a total exemption, just like a cripple. And yet he says that at night, when you couldn't bring a carbon, we say that you can make it up. And it's you have to. It's a whole new. It's a whole new era, a whole new counting of 7 days, and you bring two kabbalas. Now but just one thing, quickly remind you, what's the difference if you learn that Pesach Sheni is a makeup or a Pesach Sheni is a new Yom Tov? The Gemara says the difference is if a child became bar mitzvah or a goy becomes a ger. If you learn that Pesach between Pesach Rishon and Pesach Sheni, if you learn that Pesach Sheni is a makeup for Pesach Rishon, neither of them were obligated to bring a carbon, so there's nothing to make up. But if you learn that Pesach Sheni is a brand new Yom Tov, then someone who converted between Pesach Rishon and Pesach Sheni, or someone became a gadol, has to bring a carbon Pesach Sheni. Anyway, so the Gemara goes back to the question here. Pop-up says, you know what, Rabbi Yechon? Don't bring me any question. But Rabbi Yechon holds that Laila ain't a mechusas man. He holds that since night definitely will become day soon. There's nothing you have to do to make a day. It's just a question of waiting in time. Therefore, time is not considered an impediment. And it's as if already started the 8th day, and that's why it's a whole new area. So therefore, you're not exempt. It's crippled, you're exempt. Therefore, there's no catch-up. There's nothing to make up. But when it comes to Tumah, you're not exempt because you're denied 8 days as if it's the 8th day already. Cannot bring carbon. That's irrelevant. But definitely, now you know you're definitely going to bring a carbon in the morning because you're totally tired. And therefore, it's considered as if it's the 8th day. It's a new area. So the Rabbi Yechon hold that Laila is not considered mechusas ma. It's not an impediment. Let me ask the question: is that really so? Rabbi Yechon said so. Rabbi Yechon said, we know that if somebody, let's say, is in order to become a zav, let's say you were tamei, a person who had an emission, and if you see once, it's nothing. If you see twice, you have to count 7 clean days. If you see 3 times, you have to count zayin akim and then bring 8 carbon. So what happened? You counted your 7 clean days properly. You went to the mikveh and the sun set, and you're now on the 8th day. And then that night you saw. And the question is, do you bring and you start counting again? If you saw 3 times, you have to start counting again. And then you bring 2 sets of kabbalas for the first set, the first zav, and for the second zav. The question is, what happens if you saw at night, let's say, we're going to talk about 2 scenarios. You saw at night once, and then you saw it during the day twice. So therefore, it's considered the one we'll see gets dragged along to the 2 of the day. It's like you saw on the 8th day, a brand new time, the 8th day, and therefore it's a whole new set. If you count 7 clean days, it's 2 separate sets. But if you saw twice at night and once in the day, it's as if you saw all 3 at night. And since you couldn't have brought a carbon yet for your first thing, it's as if it didn't expire. It's a continuation. The first one, you only bring 1 carbon. And it's talking about nighttime. And we don't treat it, if you saw 2 at night, we don't treat it as if you saw on the 8th day, it's a whole new set. We treat it as if it's a continuation of the first 7. And who's saying this? Rabbi Yechon. You just said before Rabbi Yechon holds that the night of the 8th day is like already part of the 8th day, because Laila is not considered as if it's an impediment. It's not mechusas man. It's not mechusas man. Here we see Rabbi Yechon holds if you saw twice at night and once in a day, we treat it as if you saw all 3 at night. And since you couldn't bring a carbon, that means the first 7 hasn't yet finished. It's a continuation of the first 7. Says the Gemara. I'm sorry. What you're going to say? The grow achas where you saw once at night, twice during the day, the 8th day, then maybe then it's a whole new series, and you bring in the end 2 sets of kabbalas for the first series and the second one. But if you saw b'layla, ba'achas b'yayim, you saw shtayim by layla, you saw twice at night and once in the day, then it's as if you saw them all at night. And continuation of the first set of 7, and if you bring 1 carbon at the very end when you count another 7 clean days. Ain't maybe. Now, the you can tell me, you can hold Laila in Chuzman. If you can tell me, you can hold that night is not considered as if it's a Chuzman. That means the night is already considered a day. Then who cares how many times you saw at night? Even if you saw 3 times at night, it's the 8th day. It's a whole new series, and therefore you should bring 2 sets of kabbalas. After the time, maybe even 2 at night and 1 in the day. In fact, even 3 at night and 1 and none of the day. It should be considered a new series, and that's it. Says the Gemara, you're right. But Rabbi Yechon wasn't talking according to his opinion. Kika Amar Rabbi Yechon was giving his view. He's talking according to the one that says at night is considered not part of the 8th day. That night is considered that it's mechusas man. The fact that you cannot bring a carbon, therefore it's not really the 8th day. And he's explained. According to that opinion, there's a difference. If you saw 2 times at night, then it's treated as if it's night. Or if it's only once at night and 2 times during the day, it's treated as if it's a day. So what's the chiddush? Pshita. According to the view that says that night is not, because you cannot bring a carbon, it's not considered the 8th day. Then of course. And then of course, it's considered part of the first 7, and then you bring 1 carbon. What's so novel about Abichan's thing over here? Says the Gemara, the chiddush is shtayim bayayim va'achas b'layla itzchalei. The chiddush here is, Abichan's chiddush here is, he saw twice by day, but once at night. Now normally you have to see 3 times. And in the Gemara Christians we have this. Hakadat Chaminik has kafta Rav Shisha Ravidi. Rav Shisha said, I don't understand. So what if you saw 2 by day? But the fact that you saw 1 by night, so we should ignore the night. We should ignore the night. Only look at because the night is not considered part of it. We should only look according to the one that says that night is not considered part of the day. So we should ignore what you saw at night. You only saw twice by day. You count 7 clean days, but there's no other carbon. That's what his question was. Kamash Malan Rabbi Yosef comes along. Rabbi Yosef says, I follow the opinion of Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef lived afterwards, but that line of thinking that if you saw 1 at night and twice in a day, the 1 at night gets dragged along, so it's insignificant compared to the 2 by day. It's considered as if you saw them all by day. Says the Gemara. Over regular chag, okay, Sukkot went by and Shemitah and by, he didn't bring it. Crooked, you cannot straighten out. And something that's lucky, you cannot fill. Bar hey said to Hillel. We have in the very interesting places here. We have in Pirkei Avos Ben Bakbak. We have here Ben Hey. Here the Gemara says Bar Hey. So look at let's look places. Bar Hey Lehillel. Yesh mefarshim, there are those who say sheger haya. Who is this Bar Hey or Ben Hey? He was a ger. So what kind of name is Hey? The letters Hey twice, because a ger, when they call him up to the Torah, you say Ben Avram, or the mother's Ben Sarah. So Behind Ben Avram and Sarah. What's so notable about Avram and Sarah? They both had a Hey added to the name. Shenetoisiv Hey Bishman. Avram became Avraham. And Sarai became Sarah. Then Taisa says, "V'chein ben bakbak the kula hagemara oilehei." And ben bakbak is whenever you have bakbak, what's bakbak? Beis and gimel together equals 5. It's the same thing in ben hey. In fact, Taisa Yom Tov talks about whether ben hey and ben bakbak is actually one and the same. But the only thing, and they called him the son of Avraham. The only thing is, they constantly reminded him that he's a ger by calling someone Ben Hey, which I never understood, and Ben Bagbag, you're reminding him he's a ger, and you're not supposed to remind someone that they're a ger. On the other hand, maybe in this case, because he became a Tana, it's sort of a compliment. Look what they aspired to, and look what they reached. That they, when Avram and Sarah, and they became a Tana, that they can have discussions with Hillel. It says a mission in Pirkei Avos.
Don't you have also about a Bekiva? They called him Ben Gadim.
They didn't really call him Ben Gadim. His name was Akiva. Here, this is his name, Ben Hey. Every time you called him by his name, this is his nickname. And Ben Bagba, every time you called him, what you're saying is you Ger. That's what they call him, you Ger. Always. Anyway, it says this is brought down in Tanya's length. V'shavtem uri isa, and you sit there and you look. Bein tzaddik, Russia, come and view the difference between a tzaddik and the Russia, between an oived alakim, one who serves Hashem and one who doesn't. Hainu tzaddik, hainu alakim. If you're a tzaddik, then obviously you're serving Hashem. Hainu Russia, hainu Hashem loyavodik. This is a Russia. This is so it's not serving Hashem. So what's the repetition? Amalei no. Avodoi v'loy avod is serving Hashem and not serving Hashem.
Sorry, I think you skipped a few lines, didn't you?
You're right. I skipped more than a few lines. Yeah, sorry. Sorry. Where are we? Oh, yeah. So I got all excited. Okay. Yeah. The wording is wrong. Leimanis is to count. And you're saying there's a hole, a cavity you fill. Lehimalus, my brother. It should have said lehimalus, to fill, not to count. We're talking about somebody that is, you know what the pasuk chesem leyuchel is? A bunch of people got together and do a mitzvah and give tzedakah for something. They're going to do some good cause, and you disassociated yourself from them, and that is a terrible, awful thing. Or let's say you missed Kishma of Shachim is Kishma, you can't make it up. Or you canceled Shachris, davening a Shachris and Ma'ariv, and the Gemara and Brachas was out to if you did it b'meizik. When do we say that you can make up if you missed a tefillah? You can make up the tefillah is if you missed it out by mistake. But if you missed out deliberately, you cannot make it up. And the chesed yuchli manas and the caveat that you cannot count. What do you mean? People all around you are involved in a mitzvah, and you did not join with them at all. Tracy wants to prove there's a big machlekes. It says here that if you missed Ma'ariv, it's a chsara you can't fill. But if Ma'ariv is only a reshus, if Ma'ariv is only optional, why do you have to fill it? So either from here is a proof that the halacha is that Ma'ariv is a chayv. The Bahag wants to say that even though Ma'ariv is a reshus, but we took it upon ourselves as a chayv, right? That's what the Bahag says, and that's what Shlomo says. But the Tracy wants to say, from here we see that even the opinion that said that it's optional doesn't mean, well, you have a choice. You still need to daven Ma'ariv, but if it's difficult at all, including the case in the Gemara Shabbos we had in a few, if you're you took off your gartel, it seems that in those days to put a gartel was quite difficult. If you took off your gartel, you don't have to tie yourself up again in order to daven Ma'ariv. If you're in bed already, you don't have to get up. But otherwise, you have no excuse and you have to daven Ma'ariv. But other than the Rishonim find it difficult, if that's what it is, it's one thing. But if you miss Ma'ariv to make it up, if it's only optional, and we say that, don't use a lame excuse not to say it, you should say it when you have to. But to make it up, why make up something that's only optional? So therefore, the halacha is like the Bahag, not like Taisus. Anyway, Taisus disapproves. But let's continue. Talking about it further. Now we're back to Ben Hayy. Ben Hayy said, the same thing. They're both tzaddikim. So what's the difference? The difference is you cannot compare somebody who revises what he learned 100 times, which was common in those days. He goes a little bit beyond his nature. He goes beyond. He learns 101 times. The Mashah very nicely points out that it says here. Ovid Akim La'asher. What is it? If Ovid Ayin, the first letter of those three words, Ovid Akim La'asher is Ayin Aleph Lamed, which is 101. So Ovid Akim is somebody who does 101, and the one who doesn't is called a Loyavadu, which is a Lamed and Ayin, which is only 100. And 101 times is far greater. And we had before already Ashrei Misha Bolakan. Remember, Rav Ashi said to Malach HaMavos, give me another 30 days. Give me another 30 days so I can learn Shas again. Because Ashrei Misha Bolakan v'Tamud b'Yodei, the word likan is Lamed Kaf. Lamed is 30 and Kaf is 20, that's 50. Aleph is 1, 51, and Nun is 50, is 101. Let me learn 101 times so that I can go to Shemayim as an Ovid Elikim. That's why he was asking, let me learn one more time. Says the Gemara, you cannot compare Shai Pick somebody learns 100 times, or Shai Pick maybe learns 101 times. That's what Tanya talks about. We have to go beyond. Everything we have to do, we have to go beyond. Delay your breakfast a little bit. You have to always do something a little scuffy. Just go a little bit beyond your nature. Malay, so Ben Hayy said to Hillel, because one more time, if he was one time short, you say Loyavadu, he didn't serve Hashem. Yes. Say go look from the taxi cabs, or go look from the donkeys where they give people rides. I saw the parsi. You want to travel a distance of 10 parsi, let's say 40 kilometers bezuzah. It costs a zuz. But chados a parsi go one more parsi betrays it, so it's double the price. What's the shot? Because you went beyond the normal route of these donkeys. Elio said Bar Hayy. Normally we say Elio is Elio Hanavi, but Chida brings from the Rashba there were two Elios. There was Elio Hanavi, and there was Elio who was a Tana, a Maida who lived for hundreds of years, and he straddled so many different Amoraim and Tanaim, and the Rashba there says, Chida brings it down in the Yichafum, that every time it says Elio in the Gemara having a discussion with Amoraim, generally it's not Elio Hanavi, but Elio, the great Talmud Chacham. Other people say Rabbi, but here you look at that. Eliyahu was having discussions with Ben Hayy. So Ben Hayy was not only a Tana, but he was one of the few Tanaim that constantly were having discussions with Eliyahu Hanavi. If you learn Pshat Mimor, Eliyahu Hanavi, so it makes it more difficult to understand that was his name. They called him Ben Hayy. Hashem says, I will melt you down, but I will not use the normal way of silver using fire. I won't do that way. Because I chose rather that we should put you through that thing that, what's it called, the crucible of onion poverty. Melamed, this is a Gemara that's difficult to understand. Shechazar HaKadosh Baruch Hu HaKol Midas Tevis. The Eibishter went through all the good qualities that he can give to the Yidden, literally Yisrael, and he found that the best quality for Yidden is poverty. How much will we tell Rabbi Yosef? Shmuel said, Rabbi Yosef, people say, that poverty is better for Yidden, ki barza sunka, like a red streak, lususachira, on a white horse. It stands out. Over here also it stands out. And we had a Gemara in the Durham says all the way around that all the Jewish girls are very pretty. It's only poverty that unfortunately causes them not to look so pretty. But this week's Parsha Kisisa, and the Gemara Brachas, we had Moshe Rabbeinu said that Abish, it's your fault. You gave them all this money when they left Mitzrayim. What do you expect them to do? That's why they turned to the Egel Hazav. And this Gemara seems to agree. You have other places where wealth is considered a good thing, and Rebbe used to give cover to the Ashirim, and so on. So obviously, life is full of challenges. Poverty is a challenge. The mile of poverty is it forces us to go to shul all the time and daven to the Eibishter. But like a red streak on a white horse, red always symbolizes sins and white symbolizes mitzvahs. So poverty, what he's saying here is poverty is like a red streak on a white horse that stands out and it cleanses or purges, expunges all the Aveda she did. It's like a kapara. And there's a beautiful sikh where the Rebbe went to Menachem Abel, the Kapishitzer, and the Kapishitzer was saying that he's giving a bracha that everybody should be poor, and the Rebbe was saying that everybody should be rich, and each one was quoting Gemaras to support their thing. And the Rebbe basically said that even though they're both challenges, let's better have the challenge of wealth and the challenge of poverty. Says Gemara further, somebody who's born al erba, let's say he did adultery and gave birth to mamzer. In the first chelik, in the first siman in Ebenezer Shulchan Aruch, there's a fascinating chelkas mechayik, and modern day tshuvas obviously will talk about this. And that is the chelkas mechayik talks about that Ben Sira was Yirmiyahu's son. Ben Sira, which we learn about in Gemara Sanhedrin, he wrote the Apocrypha, one of the Apocrypha, and he was Yirmiyahu's son. How did he become Yirmiyahu's son? Yirmiyah left behind some shichva zera in a bathtub, and this woman went there and gave birth, and that was Ben Sira. And then Chelkas Mechayki brings it from Medrash that Yirmiyah started to learn Sefer Yetzirah. Interesting, the Medrash there says that Sefer Yetzirah was written in the times of Avram. It doesn't say that Avram actually wrote it. And Yirmiyah was learning Ben Sira. He decided he was learning Sefer Yetzirah. He decided he needed a partner. So he invited his son Ben Sira, and for 3.5 years, they were learning together Sefer Yetzirah. Sounds like Ben Sira was a great man. Anyway, so he says from there is a proof that even Sheikh Vazera sitting in a bathtub is considered your son. You fulfill the mitzvah puravu, and therefore it's your son, and that's why you have to make sure that doesn't marry his sister and so on. The Beis Shmuel brings all that down, and the Beis Shmuel brings a proof to this, and his proof is the Gemara said that a woman should not sit down naked on a sadin, on a linen, because it might be Sheikh Vazera from another man, and it might enter her, and she'll have a child, and there'll be issues. So it's clearly that they both hold that out of that if you take, let's say, and what do you call it? You take sperm and you fertilize an egg, and then you plant it in somebody. The sperm therefore becomes a biological father, and the biological siblings, and so on and so forth. That's what they say. The Taz disagrees. He says lav dafka, maybe we're only being machmer, but as far as the mitzvah puravu is, you have not fulfilled your mitzvah puravu. But one of the later Achronim wants to, and this obviously has a big relevance today in all these examples when somebody donates a sperm. Halachically, how do we view the child? And here it says, why does it say habor erba? To tell you that the only way you can have a mamzer is they disagree with the chelkas mechayik is dafke habor erba. If you had natural relations, but if it was any other way, we do not treat it as if it's a child, and we do not treat it like the Chelkas Mechayki Beis Shmuel want to say. So very interesting. I have this little piece here. Anyway, the Gemara continues. The only time it say that if you cannot do tshuva is if you give birth. Everything give birth. No, but the fact is that if you commit adultery with a married woman, she's no longer permitted to her husband, so you ruin her life. So again, how can you do tshuva as long as she's alive and her life is ruined? But if you steal something, you can always return it. It'll be a second and fix it up. You still one person, you can always do tshuva by returning it. You go to a married woman, that's it. You ruin the life forever. I guess unless she dies before you, then you can do tshuva. But otherwise, you can't. The halacha is too late. Rav Shimon ben Chaya said, this is the Bryce we're learning. Rav Shimon ben Chaya says, so we're asking a question on Mishnah. Why does our Mishnah say dafka if you gave birth to mom, and if you didn't? If you were bought on an erva and you committed adultery, then she can no longer live with her husband. So how can you do tshuva? Shimon ben Chaya says, we don't say, do we ever say bakr gamel, check out this camel if there are any mumim defects there, or bakr chazah, check out this chazah? No. We only check out something that is suitable, like a sheep, see whether it's suitable to be a carbon. And what are we talking about? Talmud chacham shepidish min ha-Torah. Shimon ben Chaya says a Talmud chacham who used to learn and then left Torah, he is the worst thing. Can't fix it up. Very difficult to bring him back again because he knows everything. What do you tell me he doesn't know already? Rabbi Yehuda ben Lakish says, "Kol Talmud chacham shepidish min ha-Torah." Any Talmud chacham who decides to go off the derech OTD. All of our kasav Omer regarding him, the pasuk says that katzipa noidedes mikana, like a pigeon that left its nest. Kain ish noidedes mikayme. In other words, the nest is Torah, that's your home, and you left your home. And it says, the Abish says, what in the world did these people find some iniquity within me? Hashem is lamenting the fact that this person who was my home left me. Anyway, so going back to our question, so why does our mission say only if you gave birth to moms? And if you didn't, if you commit adultery and you ruined her life, that's also difficult to do tshuva. So Malakash, not a problem. Kan ba'achoyse pnuya, kan be'eshes ish. If it's erva, doesn't have to be adultery with a married woman, it could be your sister, incest. So if your sister is free, then you didn't ruin her life, you didn't ruin her at all, you did an aveda. But if she gave birth to a child, then you created a mamsa. That's what our Mishnah is talking about. And this Bryce is talking about she's a married woman. You're right. So and then you heard her. Or said, go further. How about our Mishnah also about a married woman, but not always is she forbidden to husband if you coerced her. Well, Akasha, Kamba, if you coerced her, she's not forbidden to husband. Kamba Rutzen, the Bryce talking about when she willingly joined you, then you did forbid it to husband. Or another answer is in both cases he coerced. But even coercion, sometimes she's forbidden to husband. When? If she's married to a kohen. Somebody's married to a kohen and she was coerced, even though she was raped, she cannot go back to husband. And she's married to a yid, she's coerced, so she could go back to her husband. But if her mom was born, then it's a different issue altogether. Then the Gemara finishes off. Somebody goes in and out, wanders about, there is no peace. What do you mean if he goes out and he comes, there's no peace? If somebody used to learn halacha, and then he went to make a decide to learn chumash, know it superficially, then shuvin l'shalom. You don't know what you're talking about anymore. There's no longer any peace. No longer any peace. Shmuel says, you're learning Gemara, the nitty-gritty, understanding what every word in the Mishnah is, and you say, you know what, I don't have the head for it. And you start just learning Mishnayos. If you start learning Mishnayos, then it's Yaitziv Elava Ein Shalom, because now you don't really understand what you're learning, because a lot of Mishnahs are missing words, we don't understand the reasoning behind it. And Rabbi Yechonah says, Afilu Mishas L'Shas. Again, we have the expression Shas we had before. Even if you're going away from one Shas and you're going to another Shas. The way Rashi learns is, and Tais says, you're leaving behind Talmud Bavli to go, Talmud Yerushalmi to learn Talmud Bavli. The way Rashi seems to learn is that Talmud Yerushalmi is a higher level, because Talmud Bavli is too deep. It's too deep, and therefore, if you're leaving Yerushalmi to go to Talmud Bavli, then it's no good, because Talmud Bavli you don't fully understand, and therefore it's no shalom. The Tais the reader is exactly the opposite. That he learns, if you leave Talmud Bavli, Yerushalmi is no good, because halacha is like Bavli, because Bavli is much deeper and he goes much further, asks many more questions, and tries to get to the essence of the halacha. And if you leave that to go to Yerushalmi, is no good. And Tosfos learns either one. I'm going to hedge my bets. I'm not going to say Bavli is better than Yerushalmi, Yerushalmi is better than Bavli. But if you're middle of learning one, and because the style of Bavli and Yerushalmi is very different. If you're in the middle of learning one and you decided to learn the other one, that's no good, because you never fully understood one and you're already jumping into the other one. That's the difference. Okay, tomorrow night, Mitchell, we'll learn at 9.